Do a debate publicly. Jake M says, "Stop it, dude. You're full of it, gaslighting." I'm not gaslighting you. If you tell me that, hey, there's dangerous chemicals in the air, and you're not wearing a mask, I'm going to accuse you of bullshitting me. Sorry, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Unless you're going to say, I'm not afraid of the chemicals outside because I'm so brave. Oh, you're not worried about chemtrail lung? And that would be a thing, by the way. I don't hear any chemtrailers coughing. Like, you don't have chemtrail lung. So if it's not a thing to be afraid of to wear a mask, then why is it a thing to talk about? Okay, moving on. Chemtrails don't exist, and you have to be a liar. You do. You actually have to lie to yourself to posit the existence. This is the final point on it, because I've reached a crescendo in my debates. I've recognized something here. In order to posit the existence of these, you have to willfully ignore evidence that counteracts that. And the way they do this is they distract you. So instead of addressing the elephant in the room, which is contrails, instead of addressing that, they say, stratosphere injections. Well, what does a stratosphere injector look like? They don't even know. They'll say geoengineering. Well, the geoengineering is a climate change remediation term, and it's purely hypothetical. Like, literally, nobody believes that geoengineering works. The environmentalists don't believe it works yet. They're trying, but it's not doing anything. It doesn't affect the climate. But the people who believe it does, ironically, are the chemtrail people. Anyway, we're over it, but this is an important point here. The point of it is, chemtrail pushers are propaganda mules at best, fear pornographers at worst. So what are you? Are you pushing doom, gloom, fear, paranoia, intentionally or not? Either way, it's a huge waste of time. And it's no different than climate change. It's a climate change belief for the right wing. It means you're in a box. It means you're in their box. And I'm just not. And I think it's funny that there's so many people willing to get mad at me for not believing, for not sharing in their faith, and none of them are willing to do any kind of activism or protests. Like, I respect Greta. At a minimum, I guess I should say I have some respect for her. I respect her more than I respect your average chemtrail believer. Because your chemtrail believer is just a rumor monger with no solutions. And they don't even know what they're talking about, and they admit it. Their whole premise is, I don't know, I'm confused, what is this? Question mark, just asking questions. Look at me, I'm confused. I don't find that compelling. But my point of it is, it's just a posture. Willful ignorance, argument from ignorance, not a truthy thing. And hopefully they can move past it. I don't think many of them will. And one more point, Witzik gets it. The reason I mention him is that he knows about logical fallacies. Therefore, he would be wittingly and knowingly lying to push belief in chemtrails. And since I called him out on it, he won't talk about it. It's just funny. It's funny to me because he's not going to talk about it. He's cornered. He's cornered because if he's honest, he's going to disappoint his subscribers. If he's dishonest, he's going to get called out. Jake M says, I don't know what they're spraying, but I see it every day. Okay, again, the dishonesty is this. You say, I don't know. Okay, well, you're saying I don't know as though that argument means it's not known. Well, you might be the only person on earth that doesn't know. Doesn't mean it's not known. You're asserting it to be a mystery. It's not a mystery. And using that, I don't know, what could it be, is an easy lead into, why don't you watch this video by Richie from Boston? That's how you funnel people into Trutherville. It's a recruitment tactic. I don't know. Maybe you could discover for yourself. Discovering for yourself is another marketing ploy. So what you're doing here is when you say, I don't know what they're spraying, you are recruiting for alt media. You're asserting there to be a mystery. You're appealing to the ignorance of people who don't know the truth. And then you're loading the question by saying, they are spraying something. I don't know what they're spraying. Okay, well, what is a spray? A spray is a substance inside of a container that is ejected, dispersed. Condensation trails are formed by hot air, and they don't always form. It depends on the climate. The fact that they don't always form means they don't always, quote, spray, meaning it's not a spray. It means that only at certain times, certain conditions, certain altitudes will the hot air result in condensation freezing into cirrus clouds. But the fact it doesn't happen all the time means that they're not spraying. So you're sort of indirectly lying when you're saying that they're spraying something. You're misrepresenting it. Loaded question. If you walk into a house and you smell that there's someone cooking dinner and you say, "What are they burning?" You're loading the question with the implication that you have a terrible chef in the house. Well, what if they're not burning anything? See, how you frame the question is everything. So when you say, "What are they spraying?" you're framing the question dishonestly. So Jake M says, "I don't know what they're spraying." You also assume that there's a they, which brings about an appeal to motive. The bad guys are so bad, obviously they're spraying something on us. I have some chem boofers say to me, "Oh, so you think that they just love us so much they wouldn't spray us with toxins?" No, I don't believe that. Common tactic. But my point of it is, Jake M can't even pro-offer an honest statement as a basic assertion. He can't say, "Delta Airlines is dumping poisons on the cities below." He can't make an affirmative. All he can say is, "I don't know. It's a question. I'm confused." Sorry, they don't exist. Nick Fingar says, "You're trolling Witsit to debate you." Brilliant. Witsit won't debate this. I'm telling you. He won't debate it because it's a lose-lose for him. He loses if he's honest because he'll lose subs. And if he's dishonest, he loses because I'll call him out and he'll know he's being dishonest, because most of the other dishonest chem boofers don't know the logical fallacies packed into their every statement. Witsit gets it, knows. He knows about formal and informal logical fallacies. So what I put in my blog post was he cannot honestly claim to believe in them. He may dishonestly make the claim, but now that I've called him out on it 4 days in a row, no, he's not going to say anything. I guarantee Witsit gets it, and I'm going to call him out every single day. It'll be day 600. Witsit gets it, still not responding to my question, does he believe in chemtrails? It's a truth or orthodoxy. It's a sacred cow. And it's ironic because his Twitter account says, "The truth isn't always popular, and what is popular isn't always true." Which is silly. Like, it's pretty popularly known that the sky is blue. But anyway, he will not go against the popular truther-ism that chemtrails are real. He will not go against the tide. It'd be great if you'd debate me, but he won't. Jake M says, "Explain why a drone can spray contrails." I don't care. Why would you deny that? What drone? What altitude? That would be the question. I mean, you know it's an altitude-based thing, right? That these are predictable. And one other thing you have to contend with, which you won't be able to, you cannot predict chemtrails. You can't. Nobody can. However, contrails are predictable. And there are charts going back to the 50s. And why do they have these? Because the Air Force wants to know when they will form, so they know not to fly those days, because it will give away their locations. So it's pretty well understood. Violet Penguin says, "You have zero evidence, Jake M. Can you even call in?" He's not going to call in because he has no evidence. He only has his conviction and his faith in chemtrails. It's like a religious cult. And they hate the non-believers. Jake M says, "I have seen the Air Force dumping." All you have are anecdotal observations and lies. And it's lies if you have to use logical fallacies. And it's ice. It's cirrus clouds. You know, you could actually buy... There's actually bottled water companies that sell bottled chemtrails. It's pretty funny. Liquid chemtrails. You can actually order this stuff. And why? Well, because it's water, basically. Too funny. But here's the reason why you believe in it. You believe in it because this was a truth-or-ism that got you into the group. It's a commonly agreed upon thing. And you've been professing it for so long that now you've entrenched yourself in it, and your ego's attached to it. As Mark Twain wrote, It is easier to fool a man than convince him he's been fooled. So even though you may have thought yourself out of the globe model, it's unlikely you'll pull yourself out of the chemtrail phobia. You'll believe in chemtrails because of the appeal to motive, and it's the only tangible evidence for a conspiracy that you have, and it gives the illusion of being oppressed and you're fighting an oppressor. You're not going to be able to let it go. And if you debate with me, you're likely going to double down on it. A lot of the people on X who debate with me are digging themselves deeper and deeper into it, and they're not going to be able to back out. I just accepted it. They're going to be, chemtrails for life, and a lot of them are just dishonest liars. Like this guy I mentioned, Eric Fink or whatever. He said, "Well, then you're going to call these fake too," and he sends me these two videos. So I look it up. One video was a test where they were spraying the airplane wings to see how they deal with icy conditions, and the second clip was air sampling equipment. So he sends me a video of air sampling equipment and claims these are chemtrail nozzles. Why do they have to lie? He said, "I'm sure you're just going to say this is fake, but here you go. Close-up film of airplanes spraying chemtrails. No, these are air sampling tools." My point being, they always lie. Why? I don't know. Some guy named Christ Consciousness says, "How do you suggest we go about proving what's in the exhaust of airplanes?" Again, they always come out like, "We don't know. It's a mystery. Nobody knows. It's a question. We have to solve it, we truthers." And they always operate on the premise that it's not known because we don't know. And then they shift the burden of proof. I said to him here, "You shifted the burden of proof so you can advance an argument from ignorance. You loaded the question with the assumption that the trails behind the plane are a mystery. These are bad faith questions." Flat Earth friend said to me, "Well, what are chemtrails? Can you define them so we can see if we agree with you or not?" And I said, "I don't believe in them. You tell me." So this back and forth was insane because instead of just saying, "Yes, I believe in them," or "No, I don't," he said this, quote, "You fail to explain how asking for a definition of the term is reversing the burden of proof. I'm just asking for a definition so we both know what you're saying isn't true, so it's clear to everyone." That's a word salad. How about yes or no, please? Why can't they do it? It is such a joke. But anyway, I have a prediction. One more time. Witsit Gets It will never talk about chemtrails because he would have to pretend he doesn't understand the logical fallacies required to make the claim. He doesn't want to explain his non-belief to his subscribers. It's an unpopular truth. And I find too that, yeah, they're all the same. They don't have any confidence when you ask them to make affirmative statements. They will not make an affirmative, "I believe." Jake M says, "I can prove you wrong in 30 seconds. Okay, well, let's see. Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, it's Jake.
Okay, what's up, Jake M? You said you can prove chemtrails exist in 30 seconds. The floor is yours.
Well, no, I said I was going to prove you wrong in 30 seconds. But just answer me this. You say it's ice. Well, how can ice stay in the air that long? I mean, if you look at a chemtrail, it's hard not to see them if you walk outside. But they can stay there all afternoon sometimes. So you're saying the ice can stay suspended up in the air?
Yeah,
That's all it is. It's ice.
the cirrus clouds at 25,000 feet, depending on the air currents, may move laterally. They may disperse, and they may stay at that layer. So they may, and they may linger, like any clouds. Any clouds staying afloat. And yeah, what I'm saying is that they're mostly just ice crystals, and whether or not they stay depends on the prevailing conditions. And the reason why they're swirling like that is they're following the wingtip vortices.
Well, that's impossible. That's totally wrong. There's no way. Absolutely not.
Well, here's what this is what makes sense. Every 1,000 feet you climb, it's 2 degrees colder, and the air is much thinner. It's rarefied at that altitude. So you got your really thin air, and it's freezing cold. Now you got hot jet exhaust with particulates in it in a craft moving several hundred miles per hour. That hot air is just condensing in those conditions, but you're not going to have chemtrails lower or contrails lower because it's dependent on altitude. And It's like on a winter day, you throw boiling hot water out in the freezing temperature. What happens? Instantaneously, it condenses.
Well, look, I'm no chemtrail expert or anything. I don't argue with anybody about it, but I mean, I see with my own eyes that they're spraying something. I mean, you can see two planes at the exact same height, but by your eye, I mean, roughly the same height. One will be spraying, leaving a thick trail, and then all of a sudden it'll stop. Why does it just stop suddenly after a while? They'll be spraying hard for 10 minutes, going thick trails, and then all of a sudden it just stops.
That can be explained by
I mean, that,
the
that makes,
sky's not homogeneous in temperature. It's it's just invisible. It's not homogeneous, and so you may have the condensation breaking up, like it looks like Morse code. And if one plane is 1,000 feet higher, 2,000 feet higher, that makes all the difference. It may not occur at that altitude. In fact, they can specifically say to the planes, they can have them adjust their altitude, actually anticipate this. And this is a plan that NASA has. They say we can reduce the number of condensation trails by changing the
piece of paper,
altitudes.
straight line.
Yep, it's all about the altitude.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I agree with that to some extent, but it still doesn't explain. 'Cause I see drones all the time. I'm not far from a naval base. I see low flying drones at nighttime spraying a drone, making no noise. It's not a jet plane, but point is, nobody really knows what's in them, but they're definitely spraying something. That's all I'm saying is that it's not contrails, but it's something. I mean, it could be something detrimental to us. I doubt it because everybody's got to breathe in the air.
That's another point too. Why would they spray
So,
their own? Why would they dump it? Why would they destroy the environment that we all have to share? That never made sense to me either. If you use that motive as, oh, they're so bad they would spray us. Like, no, I don't think so. But, we're going to continue to debate this
right.
subject. I appreciate your point of view. I'm just saying that the spray, the premise that they're spraying is an incorrect framing of it because it's suggesting that there's something in the plane that's being dumped out. And if you look at the length of these trails and the volume, there isn't enough substance in an airplane that could leave all that.
Right.
The
Right.
hot,
Exactly. It runs out. That's just what I said earlier. It runs out. At a certain point, they stop because it runs out. They don't have a infinite amount to spray with. But once that one stops, you can bet there'll be another one behind it and will take over. A few minutes later. But that's all. But Tim, I'm not no. I got common sense. I've been looking at all this stuff for 10 years now. I like your channel. I like a lot of what you do. But I never argue with people about chemtrails because we don't know what's in it. You know what I mean? I don't claim to know, but
right. It's an
my
odd.
eyes
It's
tell
odd.
me they are
I,
saying something.
Nobody debates this. It's always like it's a point of agreement, and I think it needs to be debated and discussed to get to the bottom of it, one way or the other. Because right now it's not coherent enough, and
Yeah, I mean,
so I'm just trying to get everybody on the same sheet.
right. I mean, but we should know. There should be answers. I mean, some states have banned it. Why did they ban it? I mean, I'm sure it's written in there somewhere, but I mean, the public should have the right to know, but you know, we never will.
Well, I
It's like the crap they're putting in our food.
I appreciate the call, and we'll continue this
Yeah.
conversation because it's not ending. But yeah, thanks for calling and clarifying your points, and have a great
Yeah.
evening. Call back anytime.
All right, cool. Take care, man. Take care.
All right. And this isn't really a quote debate, but it is a conversation. And I don't know if any of you have chemtrail fatigue. I find this to be useful because if something is true, it's true. Facts don't care about our opinions or feelings. But if it's true, it should be able to be demonstrated without sophistry, without indirection, without having to ask questions to lead people to come to their own conclusions. We should already just provide the evidence. At this point, it's like prove it. And asking the question isn't proving it. So what I want to do is I want to stop these questions, like what are they spraying? It should in fact be they need to stop dumping barium and strontium and whatever on us. They need to stop dumping poisons on us. They need to stop blotting the sun. These airlines are complicit in blocking the sun. These airlines are killing our crops. Like, let's just be more direct, but let's have facts. What we have right now are these very weak, incoherent arguments. What are they doing? It's a mystery. And it's not even a mystery. But these do raise interesting points, these questions. Like, for example, what are they spraying? Like, I don't think that's a valid question. Instead, you should be saying, they are spraying blank. And if you're not saying they are spraying blank, then why not? It means that you haven't done the research. And what I accuse chemtrail proponents of is shifting the burden of proof instead of doing their own research, therefore asking bad faith questions. If you're serious about it and you seriously believe it's a problem, then you should be serious about defining the problem. It's not enough to say, what is it? At this point, we need to be the investigators. And I would get behind, in fact, we had a caller, upside down guy, who said he would get behind suing NASA. I would get behind suing the airlines. I will get in front of it. If someone wants to pay for a lawsuit, the IPS will sue Southwest Airlines, Delta Airlines. We'll sue the airlines. Class action. Why? For chemtrails. Make them prove they aren't chemtrails. Make them, in the process of discovery, exonerate themselves. We have to make the accusations. If we want to shift the burden of proof and get answers, if we want to force answers, if we want to raise the topic and make this topic more popular than anything else, then we have to get some action behind it. Like the climate change people have it figured out. They're suing governments, they're vandalizing art, they're setting themselves on fire, they're gluing themselves to airplanes, they're doing all kinds of stuff, and they're getting arrested. And what are we doing? Nothing. And upside down guy, yes, your call was great, and the points you raised was simply that um, we're observing the same thing, but we all have different definitions. So what I'm thinking is, let's go after this. Let's do this. Immortal AI says it would be nice to see evidence from the chemical trail camp rather than speculation. Exactly. Exactly. Let's do it. Anybody wants to get behind a lawsuit, I will do it. And I don't believe in it. Like, I 100% don't believe in it. But I will get behind this. I will get behind a class action lawsuit just to show that I'm not here to be pugnacious, contentious. I don't really think that debates for their own sake are good. I think instead we ought to have dispassionate parsing of the facts, arriving at the truth. Ollie Goering says, no one's suing McDonald's for serving baby burgers. What about Save the Children? Yeah, that always surprised me too. The apathy of the believers. Oh, you believe in nukes and you're not ducking and covering? You believe in space junk and you're not sleeping with a helmet on? You believe McDonald's is serving baby burgers and you're not protesting cannibalism in your neighborhood? Like believers who don't have actions commensurate with their beliefs are a strange crop. I really don't understand them. Okay, Angled Elevation says, why doesn't anyone talk about 99% of chemtrails being just weather trails to know which way the wind is blowing, to know flight trails and weather? Because there's no satellites doing this. Copaesthetic says, let's sue NASA for making bad ISS movies. Yeah, I'm down. I'm 100% behind it. I will sue NASA for mental anguish, but I want to do it publicly. I'm not trying to get some payout. I'm not looking to win a lottery. I want them to pay us for brain damage. I mean, we may have cured ourselves, but we have to deal with a lot of brain damage. NASAtology. What an abusive cult. I mean, Scientology, we can all agree. Scientology is a destructive, evil cult that ruins lives and promotes fake space and is there for no other reason than mind control, right? Similarly, NASAtology is a doomsday cult. It's beyond just space junk. They have us scared about everything. NASA's a doomsday cult. It's a utopian scheme. It's a scam. I mean, it's a slush fund for whatever projects they're involved in. But yeah, it's a huge scam. I think they should be sued. They should be sued for petrified wood passed off as moon rocks. They should be sued for collaborating with other scam artists. Like the whole mouse skate thing, that should be brought up. Like, wait until we have discovery. We want to see emails. Emails between the astronauts and who knows, Disney or whoever's doing their special effects. Sue, satellites don't exist. Yeah, exactly. Now, I do believe in Loon X. Do you remember Loon X? I saw them twice. I saw a Loon X balloon. I was like, what the hell is this? So I look it up. So I see this balloon up in the sky, way higher than the clouds, had to have been massive, and I could see there's some object inside of it. But it turns out this was the Google Loons, the Loon X, Loon LLC, and they were providing internet access to rural areas using high altitude balloons in the stratosphere. So, like 16 miles up, they created a wireless network. Now, this was done like 13 years ago, from 2011 to 2021. The balloons were maneuvered by adjusting their altitude in the stratosphere to float to a wind layer with the desired speed and direction. Users of the service connected to the balloon network with an antenna attached to their building. The signal traveled balloon to ground-based stations. So for 10 years, you had Satelloons providing internet, Loon X. What happened to Loon X? Loon X went out of business because it was not profitable. So they said. The company would be shut down to a lack of profitability. But what replaced it? CubeSats, Starlink. In other words, Starlink arrived just as Loon X went away. But Loon X was doing just fine. We can serve the internet to anyone anywhere with stratospheric balloons. But no, that's not profitable. We're going to use orbiting CubeSats, 17,000 miles per hour, a few hundred miles above the surface of the Earth. That's where you're going to be. Does it make any sense if you really think about it? And by the way, these are stationary. Some people say they've seen lights in the sky. Maybe it was balloons. No, you didn't see these. Nobody's ever seen satellites orbiting. That's a lie. But these balloons did just fine, and I think they were just rebranded. I think Loon X became Starlink. That's what I'm saying. 16 miles up. I don't believe they phased these things out. Disclosed TV. Oh, yeah, this is good news. Bad news, actually. Good to know. Not surprising. 6-3, SCOTUS allows federal governments to press social media to remove harmful misinformation. The challenge against this lacks standing. What does this mean? The Supreme Court of the United States just violated the First Amendment, or they voted that they can. That, yeah, they can certainly put pressure on social media to control the flow of harmful misinformation. Now, what does harmful mean? True. Fact-based, off-world stage, informed. Okay, let's move on here. We're going to get to the bottom of so many issues, and hopefully we won't have to talk about them forever. We'll get past it. This is something we predicted, the MAGA terrorists. I said this like 2 days ago. I'm like, wait until they bring out MAGA terrorists. They're going to bring out the MAGA ban. A man wearing a Make America Great Again hat was shot and killed by Las Vegas police after he pointed out, he was at his apartment. He was the one at the apartment complex. But he pointed a rifle at them and they shot him, so they killed a MAGA. Here's an interesting meme. You can't see an airplane 8 miles away in the sky, but you can see Starlink's 342 miles above in space. Starlinks, much like ISS transits, are also fake. Nobody has seen Starlink satellites. The best we have are anecdotal claims, and I reject those. So if all you have is anecdotal, if you watch Starlink for like 10 minutes and you didn't get your phone, you didn't see it from my perspective. I can't allow it. We don't allow anecdotal. So again, If it was so easy to see these things, you would just go out and see them. There used to be these news reports. Astronomers are mad because Starlink satellites are ruining the night sky. I don't take their word for it. I have seen no such evidence. Okay, another one. Yeah, somebody says Tim Osmond thought criminal. They have invented the thought crime. The thought crime is now a thing. The thought crime is based on the premise of a mind virus, transmissible memes, evidence that can be, I'm sorry, memes that can be spread from mind to mind, much like you catch a cold. Contagious thoughts. That's what they're really aiming at here. So they're suggesting that mind viruses exist, but the only ones that you're allowed to have are those that are sanctioned by the state, those that aren't censored. This is why I refer to the general public as having mind aids, maids, no mental immune system. Their minds are open to all government programming. Any programming from outside of that is considered to be dangerous misinformation. And that's what the Supreme Court is ruling on. They have to be able to protect the public from unauthorized thoughts, unauthorized mind viruses. We have an update here. This is from a court ruling. Garrett Ziegler he tried his best to have the case of hacking against him dismissed. This has specific interest to this channel because I am suing the hacker that Garrett Ziegler hired. And I've been saying for some time that this hacker is going to be doxxed and it's going to be a disaster for him. Well, here is an update. Garrett Ziegler is done in by one of his photos. He actually kind of more or less condemned himself here. But here's what happened. The judge ruled that this will move forward as a hacking case, not mere defamation. This is exactly what I'm doing. Google's trying to say we didn't have any part in the defamation. It's like, it's not about that. It's about the invasion of privacy, the hacking, the fraud. But listen to this. The judge said they're now opening the way for discovery of the, quote, specific means and personnel involved in the exploitation of Hunter Biden's hard drive, including the chain of custody via which Ziegler obtained it. They're going to find out, quote, who funded his efforts and who helped him exploit the data. Who did it? Who funded it? Marcus Goldfinch. Who hacked it? Marcus Goldfinch. Who published it? Who crowdfunded the money for it? Who raised money on Stripe? Goldfinch, Goldfinch, Goldfinch. Goldfinch is going to be doxxed. He's going to be doxxed in discovery by Hunter Biden. When his name drops, the following will happen. This is what's going to surface. 1, QAnon was run out of the White House, in part by Marcus Goldfinch. 2, he's a hacker. My lawsuit will be a source for his criminality. There is evidence, public record, in my suit against Goldfinch that proves this. This bolsters Hunter's suit versus Ziegler and Marco Polo. This could result in Garrett Ziegler facing criminal charges alongside Goldfinch. 3, this will bring about, and this will cause to surface YouTube's complicity in suppressing the IPS. This will be right in the middle of this controversy, and all of this was enabled by the exposure of Marcus Goldfinch. And 4, once he's named as a defendant, I will have a place to serve him papers and further lawsuits if he hasn't been doxxed by my own suit by then. So he's about to be doxxed. Nothing can stop it. Right now, as far as the lawsuit goes, we're awaiting the pretrial conference, which is on the 22nd of July. Google motioned to dismiss, laughably saying that Goldfinch did it. They didn't, but this was done with the help of a YouTube employee. So what I did is I said that they're negligent, no matter what the intention of John Doe, and that this John Doe YouTube employee should be dragged into the courtroom as another defendant. So I asked the court to do this, and I asked them to take action to initiate criminal charges against this person and Goldfinch. Finally, Goldfinch has been served. I had him served at the Marco Polo office, at Garrett Ziegler's office. I had him served, and they received the papers, and he has until the 2nd of July to respond. And a non-response will be more damaging than anything. And a non-response is a response. So we're getting our response, but that's where the lawsuit is at right now. See what's in the chat here. JC says, will we need a mask to listen to you in the future? Yes.
90 seconds.
In the future, there won't be any more of this. I really believe here that we're one debate away from getting rid of chemtrails, which is good news. You know how it's really good news that we have eliminated the belief in mass shooters and terrorist attacks because we know these things are just fake, optional beliefs, contemporary myths, but not real? Like, that's progress, right? That's good news. You no longer live under the assumption that you could be killed at any moment by some madman dictator with a nuclear warhead. No, this is fear-free. That's good news. It should be good news when there are no longer chemtrails over Trutherville. It would be like eliminating belief in climate change. Like, it's actually a pretty big deal. You have this dark cloud, chemical-laden cloud over your head, and I'm going to dispel that. And they're mad at me right now, but when we have destroyed the very premise of the belief, I think a lot of them will thank us. We'll liberate them from their doomsday cult. Commenter says, weather manipulation is causing flooding all over the world. Look at Doppler radar. You can see the nanoparticulates as they use towers frequency. I think that there's a vested interest in having us believe that man can destroy and alter the weather and the climate. The left wing wants you to believe it, but they want you to blame the private sector. They want you to blame big trucks. They want you to blame consumerism and capitalism. The right wing wants you to believe in it, but they want you to blame secret government projects. And they want you to blame Republicans and carbon footprints and having too many kids and breathing. But they both believe. And what I'm saying here is that Auto Hoaxology 101, this book, is meant to consolidate non-believers. We are fomenting a culture of non-belief. If you're a believer and you don't know, that's an issue. There's a gap that you need to close. If you believe, there's something wrong. What are they spraying? It's incumbent on you to answer your own question. You have to move from being a passive believer to an active seeker and eventually a knower. You will find yourself involved in something at some point if you're seeking where you're able to get those answers. Maybe you'll end up at an airport. Maybe you will go talk to some pilots. But if you're not seeking, if you're just passively repeating fears, then you're a believer and you're in a cult. And, that's okay. You can be in a cult. This is a cult. But there are differences between doomsday cults, which are destructive, and constructive cults, which are really just based on shared values rather than conforming to something. All right, I think we've covered quite a lot. I didn't get through everything. We did spend quite a bit of time talking about contrails, but it's important because we're dealing with it. Bailey we see says, how come the almighty AI can't even spell? How is it going to end mankind? Okay, what else? Is the time of the ISS dependent on the time zone they are zooming over? I'm not sure where they base it on. Do you think says, is space water, or are they just going in the ocean and actually seeing what's down there? Or messing about, which is likely true drills. Now, I am open to the possibility that even though NASA is involved in faking space, they could be dealing with stuff at the bottom of the ocean, or even deep beneath the Earth. It could easily be that deep space is deep below our feet. Julian Assange was freed yesterday. We brought this up, 62424, which gives you 666. He was in there for 1,901 days. Kind of a 9/11-y number. I personally don't see Julian Assange as anything more than a two-dimensional character that energizes the QAnons, makes them believe that there's some guy on the inside trying to leak information to save the world. But He's not an auto hoaxer. And if he doesn't talk about space being fake, then he's not at the cutting edge, not even close. So I don't really find anything that he says to be all that relevant to my interests. But my interests are from outside of the box and the outside of the box perspectives. This is one of these heroes they provide for those people who are inside the box, inside of the box within the box. So I'm not really all that interested in that character, but there's a lot of talk about it. A lot of QAnoners are convinced that he's related to Donald Trump, which is also kind of peculiar, because of course the QAnoners, it's fan fiction at this point, but everybody's got to be related. Trump's the son of Marilyn Monroe and General Patton. They just make it up as they go. It's a fan fiction based religion. Anyway, thanks for joining. We'll continue this conversation tomorrow. This is Chief Crow. Space is fake.
Because you can see the stars.
Oh yeah.
You know, and
We were never able to see stars from the lunar surface or on the daylight side of the moon.
It's not black and white. I mean, it's black, but there's all kinds of polka dots.
Space is fake AF. Space is fake AF.
There's more than stars. You can see planets. You can see moons.
you see the gas.
It don't matter. Say the sky was not the limit. We fly to the moon in another second. But we haven't been back since 1972. Destroyed all the papers and blew up the Challenger crew. Except for the twinsies. Space is fake AF. Space is fake AF.
Look out into deep space away from the sun, it's the darkest night you can imagine.
Hey, space boy, you broke my rocket man heart. Where are the stars? Is it bright or is it dark? The vacuum of space, oh, the tomfoolery.
What happens if you get a leak on that? You have a leak.
Deep over my bubble.
It's hard to comprehend.
Space is fake AF.
Two little bitty aliens.
Space is fake